Well, let's get things rolling. I first want to introduce myself. I'm Michelle Anderson. This is Patrick Naklis and David Pedrick. All of us are with Ecotrope, and we are going to teach you today how to provide faster builder deliverables with Ecotrope's integration. So to start things off, I'd like to introduce Patrick Naklis.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for coming. Yeah, today, just like Michelle said, we'll be talking about builder deliverables and what those things are compliance reports and basically just that closing that loop from when you show up on site and do that final inspection to closing out a job and being, basically done with that job for that builder. How can we, what are some strategies and some challenges that we're seeing the rating industry facing with that process? So yeah, I guess David, yeah, thanks, David. So in terms of agenda today, we'll talk a little bit about that, what we're seeing currently, what are some common bottlenecks folks are facing, as well as some analytics on what are the average turnaround times in our industry currently. We'll share one case study, and then the second part of today will be a demo on how Ecotrope integrations work and one possible workflow solution to this problem. And then we'll have time for questions at the end.
And please, I'm David. Please feel free to type in any questions in the chat as we go through today. That gives us a little bit of time to review those and ask any follow-ups. So at the end of the call, we can answer everybody's questions. And if we don't have time, we can we'll respond with an email out to you afterwards. Our goal here is to, present for 30, 35 minutes or so and have 10 or so minutes towards the end for Q&A as well. So we don't take up the full hour here. But yeah, we're looking forward to this, and I'll pass it back to Patrick.
Cool. Yeah, so let's talk about the current landscape. From what we're hearing, there's a lot more emphasis on turnaround time for builders. So a lot of builders are asking for, their compliance reports or final inspection reports within 48 hours of the inspection. This puts a lot of pressure on raters because there's a lot of steps in that process to complete that. The main thing we'll be looking at today is what's called the rating registration gap. The rating registration gap is the time between the rating date entered in Ecotrope and the registration date. So, what is that time? What are some, bottlenecks to speeding that up, and what are industry averages for that time? So, yep. So if you want to, yeah, thanks. So right now there's a number of strategies and tools that raters use to, turn around projects quickly. One of them, data entry on site, having your, and filling out your energy model while on site, assembly line workflows where, the rating process is segmented. There's one person taking the inspection form to Ecotrope, or then there's another person processing the reports and getting them to the builder. And then there's a whole nother team that's responsible for the actual in-field work. That helps kind of speed up this process. Also, XML import and export workflows where, you can make updates to your model that way. But all three of those have a common bottleneck. And that's at some point, someone is still manually entering in information from after an inspection to either an XML or Ecotrope itself to complete that energy model. And then also the reports piece, someone is still going in, figuring out which reports that builder needs, downloading them and sending them. These tasks are typically like a little bit more busy work type tasks where it's, just kind of data entry or manual, getting this piece of paper to that person. And that's taking time away from your team when they could be doing value add opportunities like business development, energy modeling, quality assurance, training, all sorts of other things that can help your rating company grow. We estimate data entry and takes about 10 minutes to do typically. And, from the pre-drywall and the final phase comes out to about 10 minutes. And then the report processing comes out to about 5 minutes per project. So across the whole industry, that's over 115,000 hours a year that's being spent on these tasks. All right, so this next graph, this is going to show, so on the left is folks that are currently not using ecotrope integrations, which we'll talk about in a second. And on the right is folks that are using ecotrope integrations. The areas I think we should focus on are the blue at the bottom and the red section just above. On the left, the blue and red combined, that's basically having a turnaround time 3 days or less between rating date and registration date. Industry average without integrations is about 40 to 50%, and with integrations it's around 50 to 60% is hitting that 3-day turnaround. When we look at the median for this, the median turnaround time for non-integrated users is 7 days and 4.9 days for integrated users. So on average, folks that use Inspection Sync or Reports API are able to turn around projects about 2 days more quickly on average. In the last year, that's saved over 25,000 hours for folks using ecotrope integrations. Yeah, you can go to the next one, David. So what are these? What are we talking about? We're talking really about, there's a lot of stuff you can do with ecotrope that can integrate your workflow with us, whether that's creating new projects or registering with ResNet. Lots of things that you can do automatically through our API. The two pieces we're talking about today are Inspection Sync and Reports API. Inspection Sync is anytime a software is taking inspection information and moving it to ecotrope. So that's your diagnostic testing results. You go out on site, you see there's a different mechanical system, it can update that. And then Reports API is anytime a compliance report is generated and automatically. So if you have a project management or a scheduling tool, it can generate that report automatically and potentially send it to your builder. So these are, two of the tasks we talked about earlier that are maybe a little bit more on the busy work side of the rating workflow, and can be taken on by a software tool or combination of tools. All right, so what this is showing is actual, this is again based on 10 minutes saved per Inspection Sync and 5 minutes saved per Reports API. How much time are raters saving with ecotrope integrations? And this is over the last year. So this is basically November of 2023 up to Halloween of this year. And as you can see, the folks using integrations, it's almost doubled in the last year. Or in Inspection Sync's case, more than doubled. So on a month-by-month basis, folks are saving, close to 3,000 hours a month with these integrations. So it's becoming more and more standard in the industry, and that's in line with builders having higher and higher expectations for this turnaround time for raters. Okay, so like we've talked about, this can eliminate 15 to 20% of your rater workflow. It can increase your efficiency and performance. It can also increase your accuracy because you aren't worried about fat fingering things when multiple people are entering in the same data multiple times. Basically, it gets entered once and then it's distributed across your software tools, and then you can have a review process to make sure it wasn't messed up in the first place. We also have a quote here from Jonathan, the CEO of ArcSys. excuse me, and how it's helped them improve their turnaround time. All right, so this last piece is a case study. So this is one user who started, over the last 2 years has been working on using Ecotrope integrations. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, folks. And they went, they've really ramped up their integrations. They started showing a lot of usage about the end of last year. So really in the last 12 months. But over the last 2 years, their median registration gap went from 25 days on average for the last 2 years to 1.9 days on average in the last 6 months. So, I mean, that's a huge improvement for them. And that's something they can turn around and share with their builders, saying, hey, we can meet these expectations. We have data to back it up. And it's really, great to see that they're getting, so much value from this. So with that, I want to hand it over to David to talk a little bit about the technical aspect. So thank you.
Sounds like just in time too. We've had a little bit of a cold floating around the office over the past week or two. So I also had a cold like 2 weeks ago, but I think I'm, a little bit further along the the recovery timeline than Patrick is. But so today I wanted to kind of take a next step beyond kind of the conversation that Patrick was starting and to show kind of what this could look like. To get that kick started, I first wanted to kind of talk about kind of the three-legged stool of the software tools that we see rating companies use across the industry. The first tool, is Ecotrope Rater for their energy modeling needs. But then most rating companies also have a project management tool and an inspection application. The inspection application is what they use to go and complete their inspections or record data that they see in the field, and sometimes report that back to their office, or at least just document it so you have it in perpetuity, or the 3-year kind of requirements of resident QA. And then the other tool on the bottom left is a project management tool. And this is what people use to keep track of what jobs they have, what tasks they need to do, or inspections they need to do for each job, the timing on that, the scheduling on that, and some resource allocation work there. Now, the kind of the integrated workflows that we're talking about utilize this tool called an API, which we have supported on Ecotrope, to allow all of these different software tools to talk to each other and send data back and forth. So you can automate certain workflows and automate certain tasks to save you time and make you a little bit more efficient. So there's various tools out there that you can use for these. Some of the tools that we've seen people use are Salesforce, GoCanvas, and TrueContext. These are tools, at least Salesforce and GoCanvas, that are very flexible tools that can do about anything you want, but people use them most often for project management tools, and they also use them for inspection tools in some cases. Then TrueContext is an inspection application that specializes in really robust, well-supported inspection forms that can take photos and scan data out of photos and do all sorts of things to help facilitate like a really streamlined workflow. Then on the right-hand side, we have Energy Smack and Dash. And these are two tools that rating companies have built for themselves and then are now selling to other rating companies. And both of these tools are both a project management tool and an inspection app. So it's all in one solution. And then the benefit here is they're also already integrated with Ecotrope. So the workflows that we're talking about here today are already supported in some way by these two tools. So you could work with them to get up and off the ground with minimal effort, where the ones on the left, you may need to you will need to work with kind of a person who knows how to connect that tool up to Ecotrope and has that kind of technical expertise to get that off the ground. We can help you build that roadmap and help you describe what needs to get done to that kind of third party to help you get to these workflows to be a little bit more efficient. So we're happy to do that. But with that, I'm going to do a little bit of a demo here. And on this sheet, I talked about the kind of the 3 different tools. I'm going to give a little disclaimer here. We like to play act like we're a rating company every once in a while. Patrick and I have done some ratings in our past, but by no means are we a rating company. And so to play act, what we do is we made some mock-ups of what these tools could look like in Google Sheets. And Google Sheets is just flexible and can allow you to do some of these things. So I'm going to show you kind of a play acting sandbox of what a project management tool and an inspection app could look like. And I built it in Google Sheets as an example. So over here in Google Sheets, I have a few different tabs across the bottom. One is jobs. So this is all the jobs that I'm working on and the status each job is in. Bunch of complete jobs, that's good. One that's at file processing stage and one that's at final. These are kind of just made up statuses with the address, the energy model it's linked to, and the Ecotrope project ID for each of those projects. And then I also have a task schedule, and the task schedule would be like the inspection schedule. And so these are all the inspections that I know I'm going to need to do in the future. And if we look at row 2 and over here, we'll see that it's scheduled for today. So this is my inspection schedule for my field team. And again, it's tied to Ecotrope project ID for this Ecotrope project associated with this inspection. And with the Ecotrope API and these integrated workflows or connected software solution, what I've been able to do and what you're able to do with other project management tools is to build this functionality to dispatch data from Ecotrope to your inspection form. And by dispatch, what I mean is this project management tool is going to go get information out of Ecotrope for this project. It's going to then process that information and pre-fill this inspection form that you see on the screen here with information from that energy model. So if I was a field rater, I could open up my phone and my inspection app. And so this is like a make-believe inspection app that you see on the screen. And I could open that up and I could see, okay, I'm supposed to go to 1 Marina Park Drive in Boston, Massachusetts. And the infiltration target is 1171. And so, this could mean this is what's required to pass energy code or what we expect the result to be to meet the builder's goals. And, this could be a different inspection form for pre-drywall or final or what have you. And as an inspector, what I can do is come in here and say, okay, I did the test and we came in at 890 or 980. And I'm going to update the orientation of the house. It faces east. So as an inspector, I've now kind of completed my inspection. I can press submit. But before I do that, I want to show you what this energy model looks like before we do that. So over here, you'll see the energy model that we're going to update. There's one building design down here. And if we open this up, we'll see a building orientation that says northeast. And if we go to infiltration, it says 1171.7, just like what we saw in that inspection form, because we pre-filled it with data from the energy model. The one thing is you'll notice the building orientation. Not everybody has access to this field. Only people with this kind of integrated workflow have access to that field. So that's why you may not have seen it in your own Ecotrope. So I'm going to go back here to the project page and then go back to my inspection app. So now you can imagine you're a field rater and you've completed your inspection form and you're going to press submit. And this wheel is going to spin for a little bit while my inspection app is sending data to Ecotrope using inspection sync to automatically transfer that data to the energy model. So nobody has to sit there and transfer that data by themselves. And there we are, we're finished. If I go back to Ecotrope and update the energy model, as it loads up, I now have two building designs. The initial one and now a second one with inspection data. And I open this up, building orientation now faces east. All of the windows were rotated as well, and infiltration says 980 as well. So that's just like a simple example of two data points. Inspection Sync can update probably like 90% of the energy model at this point. It can update all of the things that you typically would change based on a final inspection or a pre-drywall inspection when you go out into the field, like insulation grading and changing a mechanical system or rotating the building or diagnostic test results, as well as many other things. So now that we've updated the energy model, you could update hundreds at a time every single night. This could just go through and update all the ones that you inspected, and could update the status in your job tracker here to say that you completed that job. Now the final part that we can show here is once the final inspection is done and you've registered the rating with ResNet, you may need to send the reports to the builder. So in my project management tool, I have this set up so that if it says file processing, it's at a stage where we need to send the reports to somebody. And I have a list of the reports that I need to send, the HERS certificate and the HERS label. And I can come in here and using the reports API, my project management tool can go to Ecotrope, say, hey, give me these reports, the HERS certificate and the HERS label. And Ecotrope will respond by sending back those reports to your project management tool. And this can run, every single night. So like maybe every night you need to process 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 reports, 1,000 reports. And it will churn through all of these. It could be going overnight or throughout the day. And as it gets those reports, you can add those reports to your project management tool, or your project management tool can automatically send the report in an email to your builder. Here's an example, right? We just got the report sent back to us without having to go to Ecotrope, finding the project and selecting the right reports. We just kind of have it all built in as part of setup when we're setting up the job in our project management tool. And we now have this link that I've saved to Google Drive so that it goes in an email and gets sent to my builder based on who is the builder for this particular job. So of course, there's a lot of setup here to get that to this state in your project management tool. But once it's set up, it's a fairly seamless process. It follows a status, and as soon as that status is hit, it gets the reports needed and sends it to who needs the report at the end of the day. Patrick, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a real good job explaining that, David, but generally speaking, it's about just expediting that workflow, one click, and once the energy model is good to go, one click in your project management software, and it goes and gets the report from Ecotrope and sends it to the builder to potentially their Procore or what Service Pro, whatever type of project management software they have as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is one way rating companies have been looking at to speed up that delivery time from final inspection to ResNet registration. We mentioned that there are other ways as well of doing inspections, doing data entry on site, that assembly line style processing, or the XML import export. A lot of people who are doing the assembly line style do assembly line plus this so that their field raters can be really efficient in the field, submit the information, and then that's taken care of from there to really speed it up. And we can see kind of from our data that it is helping them be a little bit faster by implementing these types of tools. And we like to kind of help out the industry here as well. And so we shared some information on what the average or the median time between final inspection and registration. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about kind of how you stack up with that data, feel free to schedule time with Patrick, and he can walk you through what that looks like for your rating company. And also, if you want to learn how you can start down that path of kind of implementing these integrations, sign up here as well. And we're more than happy to kind of walk you through the more specific steps of how to get there and the tools that work really well to get that done, and kind of maybe even people who are working in that space to help you out.
Yeah, and I will say, we shared the kind of nationwide average, but if you work in a specific set of states, or if you work on, you only work on multifamily projects, I can tailor that kind of turnaround time review to where you stack up against folks in your specific market, based on building type or location. So yeah, would love to.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, so a few key takeaways here before we get to Q&A is that builders are asking for their reports as soon as possible now more than ever. Those timelines are getting shorter because we know that they often have the stress of wanting to get their CO and the homeowner moved into their house, and they're not always great at managing those expectations and managing those timelines. So we end up getting crunched a little there at the end. But this is one way that you can speed that up and show the builder that, yeah, we can deliver these things consistently and quickly at the end of final inspection. Yeah, so raters are feeling that competition to deliver those reports faster than before. And kind of as a final takeaway is that these software integrations can help you get there faster. And from what we've seen, it's helped people get about 2 days faster on average across the industry. And we think that's only getting started. I think that's we're going to get faster and faster there as we go. So with that, we thank you for your time. I think I said we'd do about 30 minutes here and then, or 35 minutes, and then 10 minutes or so questions. So we hit that just about right. And I see a few questions in the Q&A. I will start working on them here. Patrick, yeah?
I mean, maybe we can just talk about them a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Eli up here, he had asked about a CAD or Revit integration. We don't have a CAD or Revit integration, but this follow-up question about, if you have windows in an Excel spreadsheet, that could potentially be integrated with Ecotrope. There would, if you were trying to go from a Google Sheet into Ecotrope, you would require some scripting. So that is possible, but there's a little bit additional development work that would need to happen in order to do that. But great question, and definitely Windows is an area we'd love to help folks speed up. David, we have another question here about one of the most time-consuming tasks is gathering equipment efficiency, and if we have any plans to integrate with AHRI or like Energy Star equipment, so that's able to quickly be added. I guess I can speak to,
Yeah.
Go ahead, you can take that one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a common request here that we're doing some work on to try and understand how we can support something like this. We know that looking up AHRI information is really tedious and time consuming. And the way that it works with Inspection Sync today is if you pre-populate your Ecotrope library with mechanical systems and you include the model numbers as they appear on the AHRI certificate, there's kind of special characters on that certificate, like stars and dashes and parentheses. And that's a kind of a special format that computers can read. So if you type information, your model numbers like that into your library in Ecotrope, Inspection Sync will search for that when you type in a model number in Inspection Sync and transfer that into the energy model from your inspection app. And that'll help it match and search a little bit more effectively. It's not going to bring in those things from the AHRI database by itself, or at least not yet. But that does help you be a little bit more efficient that way.
Great, thanks. We have another question about integrations being performed through Office 365 Excel instead of Google. So really the requirement, maybe a way to rephrase that is, we showed Google Sheets today, but really the requirement is that it's a software tool that has a developer environment where you can write some code to create these API calls. I don't think Microsoft Excel has that environment.
It
But
may.
we shared.
It
Oh,
may.
it
Yeah.
may. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but it may have that. It definitely like has like a VBA environment, a Visual Basic environment that, but I'm not sure if that's a web-based version yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're happy to, help assess like what tools could work for your workflow. But basically, they have to have a dev environment that can write these API calls to push and pull data between software tools. Is there a separate cost for the integration tool beyond the baseline cost of Ecotrope? So, if you are using, one of those other tools like, True Context or Dash, there are costs associated with those tools. I would say you have to talk to them about the cost of, those softwares. Inspection Sync as well does come with an additional cost. And that really depends on, a number of things within your organization. But, feel free to reach out. We have intentionally priced it where, the cost of Inspection Sync is, considerably less than the value generated by the, 10-minute time savings per project. So it's sort of like, in order for us to continue supporting it, we do charge a fee, but there's still a lot of value there for you as the rater.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a question here about QAD turnaround time and only rater tasks leading to submission correct. Yeah, so there's buried in that time between final, your final inspection and registration. If you're rater that's a member of a third-party provider, there's that time where you, after final inspection, have to submit it to the rating to your provider, and they have to review it and submit it to the resident registry. So there is some time in that as well. We have some information on kind of the time it takes between submitting for QA and resident registration, and it's not providers are pretty quick there. But this question is correct. There's multiple things buried in that time there. Next question is, how does this work for multifamily sampling, where final testing is sent to provider for model input and replication? Yeah, for multifamily, it's a little bit more complicated here, where with multifamily, you have to go and set up your worst case homes and worst case benchmarks, and then verify that 1 in 7 units is each benchmark, you're exceeding that benchmark for each test that you do. And then once you do that, then either you do it or you send it to your provider to do the sample set generation workflow. And so for this doesn't work for sampling that well. It works better if you are testing every single unit, because sampling, you get the benefits of this by the nature of only having to enter in information for 15% or 12% of all of the homes. rather than 100%. So we don't see many people doing it with multifamily.
It looks like there's a couple questions about other, what softwares can integrate. Do you mind going back to the slide with Energy Smack and all those? Yeah, so Jonathan, you asked about Arches Snapper. We don't have, none of these integrations are basically open and available to different softwares. So these aren't integrations with specific softwares. They're just API endpoints that other softwares can integrate with. And these are some suggestions on ones that we've seen folks have success building integrations with our software. So there's no real native integrations with other softwares at this point. It's just, we have the ability to, push and pull data, and it can be built with these different tools. So I think that was Jonathan and Josh.
Yeah, I see a question about kind of specifics about the API as well. One is, how often do we update your APIs, and are they backward compatible? And then is there a restriction on number of uses per day? So we are constantly updating our API. That's one place that we are. You'll see very frequent updates as people request to be able to edit or update new information. We respond to those and update the API. And they are designed to be backward compatible as well. So it's really important to us that if you have integrated your software with our API, that we don't break your integration by introducing a change to the API, because we know that can be very disruptive. So it's not necessarily like backward compatible, but we make sure we don't break things once you've set that integration up. Then the second question was, is there a limit on number of transactions per day? We do have a limit on transactions per day. It's in the thousands per API endpoint. So it's much higher than the number of inspections you do in a day, much higher than the number of projects that are registered in a day. But it is someplace where we're investing to increase those limits, because it does require a little additional engineering on your side to make sure you stay underneath those limits. And we don't want to have those burdens long term. So that is a place where we're working to increase the limits while they don't really impact performance too much right now.
Great. And I think there's just one other question about cost. Anything cost related, like it really just depends on volume, but I spoke to it a little bit earlier. Feel free to schedule some time with us and we can chat more about that, for your specific use case of what that would look like. So yeah. I think that's it from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree. So we appreciate everybody joining here to learn a little bit more about the time between final inspection and resident registration, and how few people are using integrations to kind of speed that or reduce that timeline. And if you want any more information, please email us at info@ecotrope.com, or sign up directly for a meeting here with the link that we dropped in the chat, and as well responded to some of you in the Q&A with that, and it's also on the screen here. So with that, we appreciate everybody's time, and we'll wrap up, but we'll stay here a little bit longer if you kind of put a question in the chat, and we can answer that in the last few minutes here. So we appreciate it.
Yep. Look forward to seeing you all at the next webinar.
Yeah.